How to increase your conversion rates on Etsy. This is part 4 in the 7-part Ultimate Guide to Etsy Search series, and it's all about tips for increasing your sales conversion rates on Etsy, which in turn may help your listings rank higher in Etsy search. So I want to give a disclaimer up front. As a seller of one-of-a-kind vintage items myself, I struggle with this whole notion of increasing my conversion rates because I tend to have one of everything. So in my mind, I think my conversion rate is either 0% or 100%, and it's 100% when it actually sells. It's 0% when somebody just looks at it but doesn't buy it. However, Etsy also says that if your listing gets favorited, then that action of someone favoriting your listing also indicates buyer interest in the item, which will boost the listing's quality score and then subsequently its placement in search. But I don't think that this makes it okay to play the favoriting game that some Etsy teams do. I'm guessing that Etsy's algorithm or search bots know how to figure out that stuff. All right. So the tips on how to get that click when your item shows up in search. First of all, you need to up your product photography and make sure that the first picture in your product listing entices buyers enough to get them to click on it. Use short, easy to read titles with the most descriptive information about your product right up front in the title, because the titles do get truncated on the search results page. And so this goes against the former thinking of, put in all the, tags that you want the keywords that you want your listing to show up for, put them in the title and then in the tags as well. They're kind of saying now, don't do that anymore. Just make it short, easy to read, and move on. Then, of course, there's pricing. You want your pricing and your products to be attractive and ideally to span a range of budgets so that different people can shop in your shop. And Etsy offers a formula for calculating your product price. It's hourly overhead plus production costs plus profit, all times 4, where your hourly overhead is all your business expenses for the past 12 months. And hopefully you've been keeping good records. If you're a new seller, you might just have to wing it or use some other formula. And so all your business expenses for the past 12 months divided by the total number of hours you worked over the same 12 months. So if you haven't been doing this, maybe now is a good time to start tracking that stuff, or where at the end of the year, start putting systems in place to start tracking that stuff going forward. Production costs is what it costs to make or acquire the products you sell. So if you're a vintage seller, how much did you buy it for? And then if you make it, what does it cost to make? Be sure in this figure to include your hourly rate, your hourly wage, not your hourly rate, and you get to decide what that wage is. And then finally, the profit is the markup that you want to add to the product. Tip number 4 is promotional offers like free or discounted shipping, which can be attractive to buyers. And to learn about how to price your shipping competitively, you can listen to the Etsy Conversations podcast resource episode 52 that I released a couple of weeks ago. Now, in addition to shipping promos, you can also offer sales discounts using coupons and discount codes. The advantage to doing this is that sale items will show up in the on sale filter, and Etsy will display both the original and the sale prices, as well as the percent being discounted. So upfront, buyers can see what type of deal they're getting, and sometimes that can attract them more. The next tip is because your reviews show, having good positive reviews will be an incentive to buyers to shop with you because, of course, good reviews will instill trust. But the hard part is getting previous buyers to leave those reviews in the first place. So here are some quick tips that can help with that. Now, once somebody buys from you, Etsy sends an automated email to them. In addition to that automated email that they get from Etsy after buying from you, try also sending a personalized thank you message through the Etsy Convo system. Earlier in my Etsy selling days, I used to be really good about doing that. I would go in and send a personal thank you message, and I was getting more reviews then, and then I kind of fell off the wagon on that and haven't been doing it quite as much. And I don't know if there is a true cause and effect in that, but it's harder getting reviews now because I don't do the personal thank you follow-up email. I mean, not email, through the Convo system. Okay, tip 2 is include links to your shop policies and shipping policies inside your listings, and even maybe in the email that you send to them. So it makes it easier for buyers to access them and read them, especially things like what the process is in the event of returns, who's going to pay for it, all that, etc. Now, in the event that something does go wrong, do whatever you can possibly to make things right with your customer. In some cases, that could mean even taking a loss. And yes, there are some people that you just won't be able to please, but hopefully those will be few and far between. If you can do anything special that will stand out to the buyer, then try to do that. For example, I now include a handwritten thank you card with all my shipments. And on more than one occasion, buyers have mentioned that in the reviews that they've left for me. They've actually mentioned the thank you card that I wrote out. And I know some sellers will throw in some extra goodies in the packages they send. So if you can, try and do something additional that's special, but that doesn't take you too far out of your way. And then tip number 5 is to follow up with buyers, but don't be forceful and don't be spammy. If you track shipments, then check in with your buyer after their package has been delivered to them to see if everything is okay. So you can track the shipment, see if it's arrived, if it's delivered, and then check in with your buyer to see if everything is okay and if they're satisfied with the product. This is also a great way to fend off any bad reviews just in case there is a problem, because then you look proactive to the buyer. And then in this final follow-up communication that you send to them, it's also a good time to very politely remind buyers to leave you a review. You can even create a canned convo that walks them through how to leave a review, but remember to personalize it each time you send it. So, you put some thought into it. And just in case you were wondering, I did get this tip right from the Etsy Seller Handbook. I'm not telling you to do something that is not in the Etsy Seller Handbook. I actually read this in the Etsy Seller Handbook. So don't feel bad about doing this. Just make sure you do it professionally, and again, be non-spammy and non-aggressive when you do it. All right, so back to increasing your conversion rate. So after you get the click through to your listing from the search page, next you want to get the click from them to buy your product. So here are some tips to get you that second click. Number 1, give buyers as much information as they need to feel comfortable making that purchase. Show as much of the product as you possibly can. Take good advantage of all 10 product photo shots if you can. So all the 10 photo spots that you have, try and use them up if you can. I find that for what I sell, especially with books and stuff, sometimes I just can't use up all 10. But if you can and you need to, then do it. Now, the new standard when it comes to your descriptions is to keep them short, informative, and engaging. And put the most important product information at the very beginning. and keep search engines like Google in mind for this, because Google and Bing, Yahoo, etc. will scan your listing descriptions and use the information that's in the first 160 to 500 characters of your listing's description for ranking purposes in their search engines. Now, Etsy search doesn't do this, but Google and Bing and them, they do read your listing description. So keep that in mind when you're writing your listing descriptions. Put the most important information in the front and the most important keywords, descriptive keywords that you want Google to pick up on for your product within those first 160 to 500 characters. Now, if you can, offer shorter processing times. For me, because I don't have to make anything I sell, I can usually ship within 1 business day, and I always actually pretty much ship within 1 business day unless I'm traveling or something. And because I do travel, or something comes up and for some reason I'm not able to ship immediately, I just tend to keep my official processing time at 1 to 3 business days. But typically I'll mail the item the very next business day. Now, I may be shooting myself in the foot by not changing my processing time to 1 business day, because that might help me rank higher, but I'm doing what I'm comfortable with, and so should you. I thought about changing it, but I just, the pressure just made me feel, okay, well, what if I have to, make a last minute run to go somewhere, or I am out of town, or what have you. Anyway, so I kept mine at 1 to 3 business days. But when I am in town, I will ship out the very next business day. And then finally, there's shipping. And I already talked all about how to price your shipping competitively. Again, that was in episode 52. Thank you for listening. Please join me next week when I'll be talking with Callie of Bestowed Essentials about how she runs a mobile Etsy-based business and so much more. And Callie has a podcast as well. We'll be talking all about that in next week's episode.